Hi everyone, Alchemist here. First of all, I would like to thank you very much for your support. I truly appreciate it. You guys are amazing. Some of you in the comment section have asked me this question about how to cut meat gradually. I know that many of you want to change your diet because it's very important for spiritual growth and you want to cut meat, but you don't know how. So the person asked how to cut meat gradually and how can it be done safely without it being a danger on your health. So I'm gonna share with you my own experience about cutting meat, about how I did it in my life and how everything unfolded. Because it has been almost a decade of me not consuming a single bit of meat and not only meat, like no dairy products, no eggs, no fish, not a single type of meat. I don't ingest any of that stuff. But I'm going to share with you how I did it and how it was possible. And it is very important for connecting to spirit. First of all, let's start with the basics, with the foundation. Why should you cut meat? Why? Why is there a point? Why is there a need to cut meat? For what reason? You have doctors and researchers saying that eating meat is actually good for you. Not until recently, where red meat has been associated with causing cancer, like consuming it a lot, consuming it in big quantities can be associated with cancer. But most of the time, you trust nutritionists, you trust doctors. And when you go see them, they're gonna say, yes, consume meat. So what's the point of cutting meat? Why are we even talking about this if certain smart people are telling you to consume the meat and that it's safe? Why are we doing it? Let's take a little trip back in history about how did this all started. This movement of not having meat, or this vegetarianism or veganism, if you will, because the concept of being vegetarian is more widely accepted than being vegan. Vegan is a new thing. It's something that just kind of emerged about a decade ago in the West. In the Western countries, not around the world. And I'm gonna tell you why. So the first group of people who started this kind of behavior of not consuming meat or animal products, the first ones that are recorded in human history around the world are the monks. Yes, they're the monks from the East. Either the Buddhist monks, the Hindu monks, the people who choose the life of renunciation. They devote themselves to spirit. They devote themselves to enlightening people. They devote themselves to sharing the wisdom and the knowledge of the ancient Eastern tradition. In Buddhism, for example, the Buddha was the one who told his followers that animals and meat should not be consumed, because anything that comes from Buddhism was taught by Buddha, by Siddhartha Gautama himself. He's the one who taught his followers, you're not supposed to do this, and you shouldn't be doing this or that. And consuming meat and animal products is one of these things. So it's a Buddhist concept to not consume animals, to not consume meat. And the Buddhists have been doing this for thousands of years. Since Buddha was on earth 2,600 years ago. I repeat, 2,600 years ago. The true followers of Buddha, of Buddhism, they did this thousands of years ago. It's not a new thing. It's a new thing in the Western world. Okay? So let's get that out of the way. That's here at least we know where is this from. Because it has been recorded in history that other cultures were consuming meat. They were eating meat. They were hunting for meat. They would eat cows and consume animal products and their meat, but not the Buddhists. I know that the Hindus have vegetarianism. They're also vegetarians. They are not supposed to consume animal products. So how did this reach the West? So the West is known for eating meat. All the monotheistic religions allow the followers to have meat. In some religions, pork is not allowed, but mostly like beef and chicken and fish and eggs are allowed. You can have them as much as possible. And nutritionists and doctors, they say it's healthy, it's good for you, and it's full of protein. Now, I'm not going to discuss that. I'm just going to discuss why is it good for someone who wants to connect to spirit, for a practitioner, for someone who wants to raise their frequencies. Because I don't care. Because this is just for the people who want to know. I'm not here to discuss if you are supposed to eat meat or not. If you want to eat meat, go ahead and eat it. It's your life, it's your choice. I say it over and over in this channel. I say it many times. I'm not here to change the world. I'm not here to change people. Because throughout my experience, I've realized that you can't change someone unless they want to change. Unless they are convinced by themselves that the change needs to happen, and this happened to me personally. This vegetarian and especially vegan movement that emerged about a decade ago and started becoming so popular and has been ridiculed in the West more than anyone can imagine. It has faced the biggest ridicule because, you know why? Because humans, the normal humans, when you do something that they're not used to, they feel threatened. When you do something that is foreign to them, they feel threatened. You're threatening their peace. You're bringing something foreign to their comfort zone. They have been eating meat. Their ancestors have been eating meat. All of a sudden you come and say, no, you're not supposed to eat meat, or meat is not good for you. They feel threatened, so they're going to start ridiculing the concept. They're going to start making fun of it. And I've had to go through this myself because, of course, any person who doesn't eat meat will go through this, regardless of who you are. And most people, let me tell you, 95% of the people who cut meat that I have met in my life, and I've met many of them, all of them went back to eating it. Some of them even helped me do the transition. I repeat, some of the people who helped me do the transition went back to eating meat. They went back to consuming everything just like before. Whereas I continued with my transition and I succeeded. So it's a very tough journey. It's very hard. Yes, not everyone can do it. And this is another thing that I'm here to break down for many people, because you think it's easy, but it's not. It's easy if you do it the unhealthy way. You can be an unhealthy vegan, unhealthy vegetarian. That's very easy. Very easy. You can do it overnight. But to be a healthy vegan, a healthy vegetarian, let me tell you, my friend, that's one of the hardest things to do in the world. Thanks to the New Age and spirituality, for the past decade, this movement have come to the West through the people who preach meditation or these Eastern concepts or yoga or just becoming enlightened and connecting to spirit. So these are all Eastern concepts, as I have mentioned before, that most of New Age and spirituality is from the East. It's Hindu and Buddhist concepts, most of the spirituality that exists in the West. So part of it is veganism. Part of it is cutting meat. Part of it is to not consume animal products. So it's New Age and spirituality that kind of spread this concept to the West. And that's why it has become popular. But at first it has become popular as a trend. And then it died out. And right now it's completely, I see it dead. I started the transition when it was a trend, but I didn't do it because of the trend. I was actually extremely happy because I thought the world is actually changing, until I realized down the road, few years later, that it was only a trend. And the reason why I realized it was a trend is because I kept doing it. And as I mentioned earlier, 95% of the people who started it didn't follow through. They didn't continue. And I've met so many people who are like, yeah, I was vegan for 1 year and I couldn't handle it. Yeah, I was vegan for 2 years and I couldn't handle it. Yeah, I met someone who was vegan for even 2 years and they went back to eating meat. And I'm gonna explain an aspect of this that I can't understand, because for me, once the transition happened, I couldn't go back. Now I get disgusted by the taste of meat, disgusted. And I'm gonna tell you why, because you might be asking, well, how are you saying you're tasting meat? I'm gonna tell you why. And I almost threw up. The same goes for eggs, the same goes for fish. The smell of fish makes me not just want to throw up, it makes me want to faint. Like if I'm passing by and there's a fish market nearby, I have to get away as soon as possible. And mind you, when I was a normal person, none of this was in my life. I used to love meat. I used to eat all sorts of meat. I even had frogs and snails and all of the disgusting stuff you can imagine when it comes to meat. I've had that stuff. And I used to love meat like everyone else. And I used to love the smell of meat. Eggs, I loved eggs so much. I used to have like 4 eggs a day. I'm serious, I'm not kidding. I used to have so many eggs per day. I used to love fish. Dairy, don't get me started on dairy. And I'm not even gonna talk about the other things that are not related to animal products, such as pastries and breads, but that's for another video. Today, we're only addressing meat. We're only addressing meat specifically because that's the hardest thing for people to cut. So when I was a normal person, I was aware of vegetarianism. I've heard of it before. I've never met anyone who was vegetarian. And this is a long time ago. So I've heard of it. And I used to think it's a stupid concept. Yeah, me. And then I met a vegan person one day. And this was before it was even a trend. This was back in the day. It was one of those unicorns this girl who was vegan. And we talked a little bit about veganism and she explained it lightly to me. And I thought that was the craziest thing I've ever heard. It's something that didn't make sense to me. Why? Because I was normal. So I understand why normal people are getting shocked by certain things I say nowadays, because I used to be in that place. So I thought she was crazy. I thought there was no need to do that. But there was another thing that I wasn't aware of. Number one, I wasn't very well educated on health. And back then, not many people were around the world. Food was just food. I'm not sure, but for some of you, do you remember back in the day when food was just food? You eat it and you enjoy it and that's it. And you're like, yeah, you know certain things are good for you. You kind of know that vegetables are good for you. But we didn't have enough information like nowadays. The amount of information that exists about food, that didn't exist. So consuming a burger or a pizza or something processed or something unhealthy would be a normal thing because it's food. That's how everyone viewed food back in the day. And I'm talking about a long time ago. And number two, my third eye was not open and I was not connected to spirit. So there was a lot of things that I didn't know. So after I had my spiritual awakening and I started doing my research, 2-3 years down the road, after I've had my awakening, after I've been reading lots of books and doing research, there was a point when I realized that I had to start transitioning and eating clean. I have to start cutting meat. I have to start cutting animal products. Because now I learned about the Buddhist tradition, about spirituality, about connecting to spirit, about my third eye that was opened. And I knew that if I want to make progress in my spiritual journey, if I want to connect more to spirit, if I want to enhance my gifts and abilities, if I want to raise my frequencies, I had to cut animal products. So I started to transition, but it was very gradual. It happened over the span of 1 year. So the first thing I started with is red meat. I decided I'm gonna cut red meat while still consuming chicken, while still consuming pork, while still consuming fish, while still consuming eggs and everything else. I started gradually. The only thing I cut from my diet was red meat. At first, I never, by the way, and I want to mention this, I never went like, I'm cutting red meat. I remember I used to say this even to my friends and to the people around me. I just said, I want to try it. I'm gonna try cutting red meat. I never said, I'm gonna become vegan, I'm gonna become vegetarian. I never said that. It was for me something that I just was experimenting with. I'm like, I'm gonna cut red meat and see how it goes. That's why being strict with yourself, too strict, will make you fall in the trap for coming back to the old habits or the negative habits, because you're being too strict for yourself, because you're creating rules for yourself. Discipline is necessary, but at first you have to just try things out before you venture 100% into them. I remember I used to say, when I go to a restaurant, I might order a steak, but when I'm at home, I'm not gonna cook meat. I'm not gonna buy meat. I'm just gonna do it maybe if I'm outside, if I'm ordering something outside, not at home. So I started that. And nothing changed. I was still feeling good. I was still feeling great. I'm like, oh, not much changed in my life. And sometimes I would crave red meat. And when I do so, I just go on and have a different kind of meat. I would have like chicken, or I would have fish, something like that, because I never really ate pork that much anyways. So with cutting red meat, and pork was easy. Pork and red meat were easy to cut. After cutting red meat for a few months, I realized, wait a second, I haven't had red meat in a few months. How did that even happen? It just left my life without even me thinking much about it. Why? Because I had substitutes. I was able to consume chicken, I was able to consume eggs, fish. I decided to cut chicken. Now, this was a little bit harder because I used to like chicken, but I applied the same strategy. I said, I'm just gonna replace it with fish or eggs if I feel like having any type of meat. So I did so. So I went on cutting chicken, and every time I would crave chicken or want to have it, I would just have fish instead, or I would have some eggs. And I started doing research about what are the substitutes for meat. So I came across lots of things, including tofu and seitan, but tofu was so familiar to me because I lived in Asia when I was young. So tofu was not a problem for me. I used to have it before regularly. So I would consume either tofu, or I would make seitan or buy it. Seitan is basically a meat substitute. It's so not good for you. It's so unhealthy. It's so bad for you. You should not have it. But I used to have it as a meat substitute, because if you cook it in a certain way, it has the taste of meat. So I did experiment with a lot of meat substitutes after I cut chicken, because I needed to kind of like put myself in that transition and not fall back into consuming the meat. So that transition to cutting chicken went on for a few months as well. And then I realized it's been 5 months and I haven't had red meat or chicken. That's insane. That's crazy. It's time to cut fish. And I went on and did the exact same thing for fish. But here was the challenge, because when I cut fish, there was no substitute for the fish. That means the only option you have that's close to meat is eggs. So that's what I did. I cut fish, and every time I wanted to have meat, I would go and have eggs. But let me remind you, because I don't want you to fall for this trap. When I cut meat, I did a lot of research. So the first time when I decided to cut red meat, I have done tons of research about what else am I supposed to do so I don't feel weak, so I feel energetic. And I realized that your body needs protein. A lot of beans, lentils, white kidney beans, red kidney beans, black-eyed peas, any type of beans you can imagine, and any type of lentils you can imagine. So when I cut fish, I started substituting it with beans and lentils. And every time I would feel hungry or crave some type of meat, I would go and cook a lot of lentils and just have a bunch of lentils with vegetables. Like I would have a big bowl of lentils and I would have some boiled potatoes, carrots, zucchini, some leafy greens, some kale, some spinach, and I would just eat. And your quantities of food are gonna increase because meat is high in calories, whereas beans, lentils, and vegetables are very low in calories. That means you have to eat way more. You have to eat bigger quantities. You have to eat a lot of lentils and a lot of vegetables to feel full. And that's exactly what I did. That's exactly what I did. I started substituting all of these proteins that come from the meat with lots of lentils, barley, buckwheat. These things are full of protein. Mind you, I had to learn how to become a master chef in a way. I had to learn how to cook. Up until that point, I was pretty good at cooking, but I had to kind of increase my skills to the next level. Because when you go through this path, you're gonna have to cook 90% of your meals. You're gonna have to cook 90% of your meals. So this is how my transition went. But then, because I was still having a 9 to 5, sometimes I wouldn't have time to cook. So what I used to do is to buy these vegan products, like vegan patties, vegan chicken nuggets, vegan, I don't know, like seitan, vegan this, vegan that. And these products are everywhere. You can find them in the supermarkets. These vegan products, these vegan substitutes. Let me tell you, these are the most unhealthy things you can have. I would even tell you, go and eat real meat instead of these substitutes because they're full of chemicals, they're very processed, and they're most likely to cause you cancer more than if you eat chicken. So I fall in that trap for almost 1 year. Even though I taught myself to cook, even though I was having lots of beans, lots of lentils, lots of beans, and lots of vegetables, more quantities of foods, I still fall in the trap of buying these vegan substitute products, which were very, very, very unhealthy. They're like the worst because they're all processed foods. Go and just read the ingredients on the back of the packaging and you will see the amount of stuff that's there that has nothing to do with vegetables or anything that's natural. It's all chemical products mixed together and they put these artificial tastes in them to make it taste like meat. The same goes for these, have you heard of the Beyond Meat? You know, the patties is supposed to taste like real meat, but it's not meat. Beware of that stuff. Don't approach those things. I've had them before, but go read the ingredients next time. Go read the ingredients. Don't fall for that. And there's other brands right now that does the same. They give you the taste of meat, the taste of chicken, the taste of, I don't know, the taste of meat, but without it being meat. Those are the most dangerous products. I'm telling you again, if you're gonna transition and just go eat that stuff, might as well keep eating meat because it's better, because it's healthier than those products. Those products are the fastest way to destroying your health. So I fall in that trap of consuming these substitute products, combining it with cooking, and I was doing that for about a year. And then after 1 year, the time has come to cut eggs. And that was really hard because I really loved eggs and I used to consume them on a daily basis. But my spiritual quest, my spiritual journey was pushing me to do so. I'm like, I cannot. If I want to connect to spirit, I want to ascend. I want to rise higher. I want to know what's out there. I'm able to see spirits, but I want to know more. And I know the only way to get closer to spirit, and I have to cut all animal products. So I did cut eggs. That was tough. That was tough because sometimes I would crave them. Here is when discipline becomes very important. Here, if you're not disciplined, you're not gonna make it. If the goal, that why are you doing this? If it's not there, you're not gonna make it. Because this is not a trend. The reason why I succeeded, whereas 95% of the people around me didn't succeed, as I have mentioned, the reason why is the why. The why I was doing it and the why they were doing it was completely different. My why was to get closer to spirit. The side effect of that is not harming animals. Of course, it's a win-win. For me, it's getting close to spirit and not harming animals at the same time. The why of the other people had nothing to do with spirit. Most of them were saying, I don't want to harm animals. And I'm just being honest with you. That's what most of the people who went back to eating meat told me. They were saying, well, it's unethical to kill animals. It's unethical. I don't want to harm animals. Think about the amount of unethical things you do in your life every single day. So, sure, I'm so happy. It's a noble thing to think about animals and not want to harm them. But if you're gonna do it and if you don't believe in your cause of not harming animals, how come you're back at eating meat? So it means you're doing it as a trend. So you have to know your why has to be very precise. It has to be concise. You have to know why you are doing this. If it's for fun, it's not gonna last. If it's to just because it's something you believe in, but only 50% you don't really believe in it, but you're not sure, but you don't know, it's not gonna work. For me, it was connecting to spirit. And out of that came not harming animals as well. It's 50-50. And I also strongly believed in the idea that energy doesn't die, it transfers. This is even quantum physics have proved this to be true, to be right. Energy can't be destroyed, it can be only transferred. So when an animal is killed, that suffering of the animal, of the cow or the chicken or the fish, it does transfer to you when you consume it, because it has pain, it has suffering. And that's why when you start consuming less meat, you feel lighter, you feel less angry. When I cut eggs, it was a little bit hard, but I made sure to be disciplined. I always reminded myself of the why I'm doing this, and it worked. And I kept consuming dairy products. You see here, I was doing things step by step, gradually. I didn't cut everything overnight, because when you do that, that means you're gonna do it for 1 month and you're gonna come back to eating everything as before. So I did it gradually, and I was consuming eggs for a whole year before I cut them. And after eggs, the last step was to cut dairy. So I started working on the dairy side of things as well, to cut everything that has dairy, such as cakes and whatnot, and pizzas if I'm having a vegetarian pizza that has cheese, or I can have the pizza without the cheese on top, and making sure that gradually I don't have anything with dairy. Like if I would have tea or coffee that has milk, I make sure to not have that milk in there anymore. And I was substituting dairy again with almond milk, with like, I don't know, cashew milk, oat milk, name it. There's so many milk substitutes. So in the beginning, I did a lot of substitution to help me through the transition. Even most of those substitutes are unhealthy. They're not good for you. Most of them, including these artificial milks as well, like because they have so many sugars and they're processed. Unless you make the almond milk at home. And I find this concept funny. What's the point of having an almond milk? What's the point? Almonds are almonds. What's the point of having a milk that comes from almonds? That means, yes, if you use it as a substitute through your transition, I understand. But if like you're having it just because you want to make yourself believe that you're having milk, that doesn't make sense. It's the same for having these mock burgers or vegan burgers. Burger is supposed to be with real meat. Why are you eating a burger if it's not with real meat? So you're just trying to trick your mind that you're not eating meat, but the concept is that a burger is supposed to have meat. So for me, these things don't make sense. I'm gonna have milk, but it's from almonds. No, a milk is something that comes from the cow, and that's it. Having almond milk is a ridiculous thing, but I used to do it. I'm not judging. I don't care. By the way, I need to remind every now and then, I don't care what you eat. I don't care what you do. It's your life. Do whatever you want. You are in control of your life. I'm not judging. I don't care. But I just think it's a stupid thing. It's just my thought. Because I used to have that too. I used to drink all of these substitute milks. And then slowly I found myself going to these vegan places that make vegan cakes, and because I used to love cake. I used to love cake a lot, and pastries. So I started looking for these vegan places, these vegan pastries, these vegan cafes that would have the cakes and the pastries, and it's all vegan. Nothing is made from animal products. And I thought I won. I thought I made it. I thought that's it. I'm in control. Life is good. I can have all of these things. You know, I can have a burger if I want. I can have a pizza if I want. I can have cake if I want. Nothing. Life is perfect, but there's no animal products in there. And I thought I'm gonna connect to spirit like that. And little did I know, it was the opposite. I was getting farther and farther and farther and farther from spirit. You wanna know why? You're asking, but you're not consuming animal products. Yeah, but I'm consuming toxic products, unhealthy things. Everything is processed and unhealthy. And that destroys your body. And I always talk about alchemy, about the main component in alchemy is corpus animus spiritus. Corpus animus spiritus. What do they start with? Corpus, the body. There's a reason why corpus is the beginning. It's the first one. It's not the soul and it's not the spirit, which is animus and spiritus, or anima and spiritus. You know, the trinity of alchemy. It's body, soul, spirit. And there's a reason why they start with body, because your body is your vehicle. It's your main tool. You know how we love tarot and we all say tarot is amazing? You know why? Because it's a tool, right? Tarot is a beautiful tool. But your most ultimate and most beautiful tool that you were gifted is your body. And you have to take care of it. So when I was consuming these processed products, I was destroying the tool that was going to connect me to spirit. So how am I destroying this and saying I'm connecting to spirit? If your car is broken down, if it's not running properly, how can you run with it? How can you go with it anywhere? It breaks down, it's going to stop, it's not going to run. You have to take care of your car. You have to, change the oil or whatnot. You have to make sure that it's running properly in order to use the car to drive from point A to point B. Same for your body. So I was doing it the wrong way. And most spiritual people who are into switching their diets to veganism are doing this. Their intention is good, to connect to spirit or to not harm animals, but they're doing it the wrong way and they end up destroying their bodies. And let me tell you, when you destroy your body, you feel worse than when you're eating meat. You feel even worse. You fall in lower frequencies even much, much harder than when you're consuming real meat. So I was doing this for a couple of years. I was just like consuming all of these processed vegan foods, and I thought I was connecting to spirit. And my body was getting out of shape, and I was even starting having some problems, some with my body and some sicknesses, and I wasn't feeling healthy at all. And mind you, I was taking the B12 because when you switch to a vegan diet, it's highly recommended to take the B12. I took it for the first 5 to 6 years and then I stopped and I don't take it. and I'm completely fine. Because that's the second phase, the second level of the transition. Now I'm teaching you about the first level of the transition. The first level of the transition is very hard. And you need to take your B12, and you need to make sure that you're having your proteins properly, and you need to put some substitutes in your diet, even though they're unhealthy in the beginning. But the mistake is to keep basing your diet on these substitutes, which is what I did. For a good couple of years, I was eating just those substitutes. And I would cook, of course, some things, but I would use a lot of these artificial processed vegan foods. And most of these processed vegan foods, because in the label they have vegan, they're usually not cheap, they're expensive. So you're hurting your pocket as well. So I was doing this for a few years, and I thought I was doing the right thing until I met Inawich. And I have to give credit again to Inawich here. Until I met Inawich, and she opened up my eyes to a whole new world of what nutrition is actually all about. She opened up my eyes to, I remember I was showing her the things I was eating, and for every single thing I consumed, she would take the package of those processed foods and she would say, let's read the ingredients. And we would start reading, and I would be shocked. I would be completely shocked and flabbergasted. Everything I was eating had chemicals in it. Everything. And Inawich opened up my eyes to the fact that the true way to follow in this diet, which she was doing way before me. She was doing it for years, way before me. That's why I'm telling you, Inawich she's the real deal. But she's very humble and quiet about it. She's just very humble and quiet about it. That's why she's the real deal. She opened up my eyes to the fact that the real way to do this is to go all natural. All natural as in like anything that you consume should come from a natural source and should be cooked or prepared naturally. That means no packaged foods, no processed foods, nothing processed. And when I say nothing, I mean nothing. Except if you buy, for example, honey. Honey is gonna be in a jar, but it's not processed. If you're gonna have honey, then sure. Let's say you can have honey in a jar. If you're gonna have, let's say, I'm just trying to find examples. If you're gonna have peanut butter, let's say peanut butter, just make sure in the jar of the peanut butter it says 100% peanut butter, nothing else. That means the process that was involved in that peanut butter is just grinding the peanuts. That's it. Nothing was added, no artificial sugars, no artificial flavors, ingredients, oils, salts. Because you know the regular peanut butter that you buy, go read the ingredients. You're gonna be shocked to see what's in there. You're not eating any peanut butter. You're eating chemicals. Same goes for anything processed. The chips, the cookies, the crisps, the pastries, the breads. Your body is just being destroyed bit by bit because you're consuming chemicals and artificial things and you're not even realizing it. So Inawich opened up my eyes to the fact that, yeah, you want to be closer to spirit? Have the things that represent spirit directly. The fruits that come directly from the tree, the vegetables that come directly from earth. Those are the things you're supposed to consume. In addition to gain the protein, such as lentils and beans. When you buy a bag of lentils, it's written it's just lentils. It's not processed. That means you have to cook them from scratch. By the way, when I say lentils and beans, I don't mean canned stuff. That's also processed. I mean you buy a bag of lentils like raw and you have to soak them in water and you have to cook them from scratch. Same for beans. I don't use canned stuff, because that's also processed. That's also dangerous for you. So this higher phase of this diet, which I transitioned to, was to completely cut anything that's processed from my diet. Anything. Anything that's in a can, that's in a box, that's from the supermarket. And when I started doing that, you go through this transition period, and that transition period is quite tough because all of a sudden I lost a lot of weight. But losing weight happened to me in the beginning as well. So when you're going to transition to a vegan diet, remember that you're going to use an incredible amount of weight, especially in the first few months of your transition. And especially when you cut all of the meats, when you're at the point where you're cutting all meats, including eggs and fish, and then the months that come after, you're gonna see a considerable drop in your weight. And it might be even concerning. And that's when most people become scared. They think something is wrong with their bodies. No, it's just your body's adjusting. Your body's taking a period of adjustment. It's usually 1 to 2 months to adjust to the new diet, and then you're gonna regain back all of that weight. Don't worry, because here I am. It worked for me. So when I did that second transition to all natural products, close to being raw vegan, if you've ever heard of raw veganism, it's something close to that. Then your body's gonna try to adapt to that as well. So you're gonna lose some weight during that process until your body adjusts. And from that point on, everything I eat is completely natural. It's not processed. But every now and then, after that transition, if I would love to have something, let's say like a cake, I would have it. I didn't cut it like cold turkey, just like that. Because again, the people who just go and do something strictly, they're gonna fall back in the old behaviors. You have to give yourself some time to get adjusted. So every now and then, when I felt like having a cake, I would have a cake. Every now and then, when I felt like having something that's not supernatural, I would have it. But every now and then. Every now and then. Not all the time, not every day. Because that's going to help you with your transition. Until one day when you wake up and you don't even crave that cake. And that's what happened to me. When you don't even care if that cake is there, even if you see it. You pass by pastries and cafes and they have mesmerizing cakes and they look so delicious and they look so beautiful, and I don't crave them. I don't crave them because that craving disappears. Because now your body have learned how to ingest just healthy nutrition that's full of spirit, that's not processed. So your body will crave more the vegetables. It will crave more the fruits. That's what I crave right now. Vegetables, fruits, these things that come directly from earth, and it's these elements that are still full of spirit. The spirit is still alive within them. Because my body wants something that's full of spirit. So when I go and have a cake, I feel like throwing up. When I go and have pastries or breads, I feel like throwing up. And to go back to the meat, why I feel like throwing up when having it. It happened to me a few times when I would order, after my transition, and I would go to a restaurant and I would ask for something vegan, and I would forget to ask them to not put eggs in it, like for example, fried rice, but there's still egg in it. And they would bring it. And once I was like, okay, well, it's okay. I don't feel like asking them to make me a new bowl of rice without eggs. I'm just gonna have it. I had 1 spoon of the rice, the fried rice, which had egg in it. I right away, and then the moment I had the spoon, I felt like puking everything. This kind of egg smell, I don't know how to explain it. My body became so sensitive to the egg smell. And I couldn't believe it because I used to love and adore eggs. The same thing for cakes that have eggs in them. Every now and then when I used to crave cake and I would have one cake, like with the spoon, I cut, I bring it close to me, close to my mouth, and then I smell the egg in the cake. It's something that normal people don't smell. I started smelling it. My taste buds became so much more enhanced. My smell sense became so much more enhanced. And then I wouldn't eat the cake because the cake had this strong smell of the egg. And this is not just me, because I was with people who were eating cakes as well. They were normal people. And I told them, can you please try this cake and tell me if it's normal, because I think I'm going crazy. And they would try it and they would be like, yeah, no, it's delicious. And I would ask the friends, don't you smell the eggs that is just killing me right now? And they're like, what eggs? And I'm like, the smell of the eggs in the cake. You don't smell it? And they're like, no, what are you okay? What? Your body becomes very sensitive to processed and unhealthy stuff. Your body starts detecting them from far away. And a couple times with meat, when I would order something and I think they make a mistake, once there was a mistake and the chicken was in there and I did not see it. There was a chicken in the rice I was eating and I didn't see it, and I had one spoon and I swallowed the chicken and I felt like my whole body was irritated. It was like, oh, that feeling was disgusting. Yes, from eating chicken, from having eggs. But this was like 4 or 5 years after I was already into this diet. It's not right away. The first few years, you're still gonna maybe have chicken and still say, oh, it's delicious. But years later down the road, these things just feel disgusting to you. It's not because I'm pretentious. Again, I don't care. Go ahead and eat any meat you want. I'm just saying how your body transforms and it starts reacting to these meats after you're in this diet for a very long time. So it's very interesting how your body starts to behave when you go through this transition. And yes, you do become much lighter. And yes, you start seeing more spirits. You start feeling them much easier. And yes, I became more sensitive to spirits and ghosts, and I started feeling them way more when I transitioned to the diet. Mind you, the diet that Ina Witch told me about. And mind you, this diet includes not consuming any type, I repeat, any type of sugar, salt, and oil. Sugar, salt, and oil. So you can imagine that you're literally not eating anything that you can buy outside. You can only eat the stuff that you cook. I repeat, no salt, no type of salt, no type of oil, no type of sugar. That's like the highest level. That's like hardcore. And Ina Witch knows more about that than anyone, because she's the one who taught me that kind of diet. And that was very hard. That was the last level, and Ina Witch someday will share that with you. And for me, it took a few years for me to become able to adapt to no oil, no salt, no sugar of any type. That's hardcore. But Ina Witch has been doing it for years. She has been doing it for years. 4 years. Imagine nothing that has salt, sugar, or oil. And of course, bread. I'm talking, of course, dough, no bread, no type of dough, no type of bread, no type of cake, no type of anything that's processed. But that's the highest level. That's why I don't want to focus on that right now. This video is mainly about meats. We'll leave that to another time. So there's levels to this, okay? And for you, the beginners, I want you to focus on the beginning of this video because that's what's gonna help you the most. First of all, why are you doing this? Number two, gradually transition. It's gonna take you a few years. Yes, it's not gonna take 1 or 2 months like what most people are gonna say, because if you try to do it within 2 months, I can bet that you're gonna come back to the way you're eating and you're gonna come back to consuming meats like before. So might as well not do it. Why bother? So the transition takes few years, a couple years. You cut one thing at a time for a few months, one thing at a time for a few months. Use your substitutes, even though they're processed. In the beginning, they're necessary. You're gonna have to use them. Even though they're unhealthy, you're gonna have to use them. Otherwise, it's almost impossible. And take your B12 and gradually transition into becoming healthier and healthier and healthier. Just baby steps, baby steps, baby steps, slowly but surely, and don't give up. Until one day you're gonna become disgusted when you smell meat. You're gonna become disgusted when you smell eggs or fish or chicken. And you're gonna become disgusted when you have pastry. You're gonna become disgusted when you eat your favorite bread. Because this happened to me as well. My favorite type of bread, and I had one bite. I was actually with family at that point. They were all shocked of my reaction. I told them, I'm really sorry. I don't mean to judge, but I need to go to the bathroom. And this was my favorite bread that I used to eat all the time. Because your body is the most magical tool, and it can transform in ways you don't even understand. Because I don't understand how my body transformed it to the way it is right now. I can't comprehend it. It's the most magical tool. But this transition, especially the highest level of this transition that which taught me, it can take you a decade to get there. So take your time. Don't think this is a 1-year thing. This is a journey. But for you to keep going through this journey is to know the why. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing it? This is not a trend. This is not a child's play. It's not a game. This is to connect to spirit. This is to ascend. This is to raise your vibrations. So, and that's why when I channel tarot, the message that comes is honest, it's real, it's true. Because my body is clean. It's completely clean. And of course, combining this with exercise, with sports, with many, many things that I will address in other videos because I don't want to overwhelm you. This is not something easy. It's not for the faint-hearted. But if you want to do it, you can do it. I was able to do it. You can do it. If you want to. It's all up to you. If not, go ahead and eat like a normal person. No one is judging you. Some of the people that I love the most, they eat normal foods and I still love them. I don't judge them. It's their choice. It's their path. It's who they are. And for the monks who still do this, and they're actually at that highest level, they're up there that I talked about, and they do it. The reason why they're so used to it, again, it's because they've been doing it since they were young. So they're used to it. So to them, it's a normal thing. So for you to do it in your 30s or 40s or 50s, take it easy. Don't be too rough on yourself. Know that this is a process that's going to take years and years. It's going to take 5 years. It's going to take a decade. And don't punish yourself too much. Just do one step at a time. If you sometimes crave something, go ahead and have it. Who said you're not supposed to have it? Go ahead and have that burger if you crave it. Go ahead and have that piece of chicken if you crave it. But the transition, slowly but surely, is taking place. Okay? Okay, this video it's too long because I can talk about this for hours and hours because everything I'm sharing with you, and I'm barely scratching the surface because there's so much wealth of information that I can share with you just from my experience about this journey of eating clean, of not consuming meats. So I hope this helps. Thank you very much, and let me know if you have any questions about this subject or any other subject, because I will make a video about it to help you with it. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.